Hello, world. What is up? Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build studio in New York City. Twas the Night Before is Cirque du Soleil's first ever Christmas-inspired show and will make its New York City debut on December the 12th at the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden. The show does what Cirque does best, filtering timeless holiday imagery through the brilliant imagination and performances of world-class acrobats and artists. We are mere days away, folks. Here to tell us all about it, the show's writer, director, and artistic director for Cirque du Soleil, Mr. James Hadley. Make some noise. Welcome our guest. Come on, do it up. James, man, congratulations. Super exciting times. How are you doing, sir?
A little bit tired, but but I'm doing well. And we just got back from Chicago where we opened, and we had a fantastic sold-out run. And it was good to finally get in front of people, because I think that's the big thing: is you wait for so long, you just wonder what is the response going to be. And we were so overjoyed to have.
What has it been? How have the crowds been so far? You said sold out. That's amazing.
It's very nice.
The demand and the love is there. What about the reaction to the pieces, to the performances? What's it been like watching that?
It's been great. I think for me the biggest challenge is this is sort of a new brand for Cirque. It's called Cirque du Soleil Family. Right. So we're really focusing in on family with young children. But on the other hand, we really wanted the experience to be fun for everyone. So that was my biggest challenge going in, was how can we have elements that will be maybe fun on different levels for different people. And so that's what's been really satisfying, is that the reaction has been great from all across the spectrum.
And you've done a bunch of work with Cirque before in the past, so coming into this, perfect candidate for this new challenge, this new frontier. How many times did you find yourself pulling from your experience and going, that might not fit here, let's try this instead, let's tweak that? Like, how much did you have to evolve and change and sort of adapt as you were creating this new sort of sub-brand of Cirque Family?
It's a good question. We had a great, I have a great creative team around me, and all of them are veteran Cirque creators, designers, and we did a lot of just sort of bouncing ideas off of each other, things that had worked in shows in the past, things that we thought would really be specifically pertinent for this kind of show. So I have to say I was really fortunate in the voices that I had around me, that everyone was sort of giving their feedback. I'm a collaborative person when I create, and so I really liked getting that perspective from them.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I want to dive deeper into the whole process and why the inspiration from the poem and all that stuff. But real quick, I'm just super excited. It's coming to New York. New York, I imagine, a pretty special place for this show, especially the source material, I believe, was published in a New York paper like 200 years ago or something.
200 years ago.
It was very appropriate.
Incredible, incredible.
So it's got to mean a lot to bring the show here to the Hulu Theater a couple of days out. How do you feel? Even though you've just had this amazing run in Chicago, you've got to do it all over again. Now you're in New York City. What pre-show jitters? What are you feeling going into this opening? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for reminding me a lot.
I'm going to do that a lot.
Good. Yes, there's a lot of pre-show jitters. But I think that was what was really fun about putting this together, was we had this source material, which, come to find out, I didn't realize early on, was that it is the most well-known poem in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
And actually in Canada as well, the most well-known. And so it really, as soon as you start to say 'twas the night before Christmas, people just know. And so what was fun about it was I knew right away we didn't want to sort of do a retelling of the poem. And so we pulled together a lot of sort of inspirational stanzas or images from the poem and linked them in sort of surprising and unexpected ways to different acrobatic acts that you would see maybe at a Cirque show or some other performance, but linked them sort of in a way that maybe would not be expected for this poem. So, like, for example, we have, there's a lot of the poem that describes Santa Claus, and so there's one that is, his eyes, how they twinkled, that whole sort of section there, and instead of using it to describe Santa Claus, we describe these 4 different characters, or each have those elements, and do really sort of a fun Diabolo act.
The Cirque, and it's okay, I can abbreviate and say Cirque, that's a cool thing, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to make sure I wasn't being disrespectful accidentally.
For sure.
But the typical Cirque performer, when you close your eyes and you imagine Cirque, I feel like difficulty in portraying the bowl full of jelly, that portion of, how do you depict that with your average Cirque acrobat?
I cannot lie. We did have to add some big costumes and some big stuffing. We didn't. Yeah, you're right. They're all quite slim and trim.
That's just inherent in the business. It's
Yes,
going to happen.
yes.
Chicken or the egg, what comes first? Do you have like in your mind a bunch of acrobatic performances that you've seen? Like, are you constantly like on the lookout for new acts and new amazing talent, and then you go, oh, you know what would be great for this? Or is it you think of, oh, the twinkle in the eye, what acrobatic performance best suits that? How does that work? How do you pair those things?
You know, it's a mix of both, actually. There were some that we just knew from the get-go that we really wanted to have certain acts in the show, and certain that we knew that would fit in a theatrical setting as opposed to a traditional Cirque du Soleil show. And so it was a little bit of both. And so we would find some moments in the poem that we thought we really have to find a way to bring this to life, and we would search. As you can imagine, Cirque has an amazing casting department and casting database, and so we sort of scoured that to look for things that fit to some of those stanzas. And on the other side, we had, in this story, we have sort of this spark of light that sort of represents the Christmas spirit or Christmas, the love of Christmas. And we had an act that I've been wanting to put in a show for a long time. It's a lamp act where the performer sort of hanging from this lamp that does light up, and it fit perfectly into the story. And it's right at the end. It's kind of a touching, moving moment where his light comes back on, and he does this performance. And so I would say it's a mix of both. We've had some that we knew we would fit in, and some that we really had to search for and see things that could fit well into the story.
How do you, when you're putting the show together and you know that we want this to be, the first in the line of like the Cirque du Soleil family shows, but you also want to stay true to what Cirque does and push the boundaries and do something people haven't seen before? That's a really small needle to thread. How did you guys navigate that? How did you identify that, find that? How did you know you were in that zone?
You know, I think one thing that surprised all of us when we got together as a creative team to put this show together was that Cirque hadn't done a Christmas show. We thought for sure, that just seems like such a natural combination.
I had to Google like 3 other times to make sure I was reading it right the first time I saw it. I was like, there seriously hasn't been another? Like, I had to keep going. I was like, all right, yeah, this is the first one. This is it.
Exactly. I mean, they had one we talked about. They have that celebrated winter and had, maybe which came into a more holiday season, but was never really about Christmas. And this really, because it's based on the poem, and the poem is all about Christmas. And in many ways, the poem has established a lot of the imagery that we have right now about Christmas. Even the names of the reindeer come from this poem. Like, there's so many things that really they're so iconic about the poem and Christmas. So when we first started talking about it, again, that was one of the things that surprised us, was that Cirque hadn't done a Christmas show, but specifically to try and find things that were both going to be fun and exciting for families to come and see. So we thought things that were bright and colorful, but also, just as you say, there's got to be that excitement, that risk, that danger that people come to expect when they see a Cirque du Soleil show. So you're right. It was very much a balance of finding the combination of all of those elements.
Does a show like Cirque, when you move from like Chicago to New York, as you do all these shows, you get them under your belt, I imagine because of the precision required in the performance, everything's kind of locked in. But are you guys tweaking things? Are you looking at performances or pieces and going, oh, we could try this here. I see they really responded to that. Maybe we do this a little slower or a little longer. Do you do that with this show, or is it, no, everything's locked in, you got to jump through the hoop and let's make sure you do, how does it work?
I would say every single show we're looking at things. I mean, that's what I think is so wonderful. I've lived on both worlds. I've done the theater Broadway world, and I've done this world. And what I love about the Cirque du Soleil creation process is that the show is never frozen. The show is always evolving because it's so based on human performance, and those things change. You get new actors coming in, or new artists coming in performing different acts, and just the nature of that means you're going to have to change the music because their musicality is different. You're going to have to change, maybe their trick is different, so it takes longer, and you're always looking to see how you can push the limits and make things better. So that's the one thing that I really love about this creative process, is that it's never finished. You can go see a show in one of the shows in Vegas, and you'll go back 5 years later, and it'll be the same theme, the same basic show, but many elements will have changed.
Grown, it's evolved. Yeah, it's a living thing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's pretty amazing. Why do you think now, 30 years, 49 some odd shows, 30 something years? Why is now the Christmas show just happening? What about now makes it
It's a
extra
good question.
special?
I don't know why suddenly this came up as an idea. But what I like about this show is that it's got a lot of the traditional elements of a Cirque show, but we also have this core group of dancers that really sort of tell the story. They're the sort of the Greek chorus, and they guide our lead character through the show. So that's something that's a little bit different from a Cirque show. Usually it's our acrobats who do some dance, but now we've got this really fantastic core group of dancers from LA that have come in. And they're called les tuques, and in Quebec, it's something that is it's a wool cap. And so they look sort of like this whole like a bunch of little kids who be playing in the schoolyard, all dressed up in their winter gear. But ultimately, we come to find out that they are Santa's elves and are telling this story and guiding this girl through the show and through some really spectacular choreography.
I know one of the things this show aims to do, and I think is going to be very successful, and it has been successful so far in Chicago, is sort of establishing a new winter Christmas tradition for people. Because, of course, it harkens to all of those things that we know, the names of the reindeer, the imagery of Santa, all these different things, but it's in a new and fun and exciting way. As the writer-director, did you sneak in any of your traditions? Did you fold in anything? Oh, this reminds me of how I used to celebrate holiday season and stuff like that, and make it personal to you as you were writing and directing the show?
You know, this poem was definitely a part of my Christmases growing up. It was something that was read, you know, at the night before Christmas, and come to find out as we were putting this piece together that it's part of so many people's traditions. So I was really excited to sort of rediscover it, and I think I knew it on one level of just sort of the story, and then coming back to it, what excited me was the beauty of this poetry. I mean, there really is some beautiful lines throughout. You know, the moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below. It's really a beautiful line, but you just sort of accept it as part of the "Twas the night before Christmas." And so I hope that people will have a chance to sort of rediscover this poem. And one of the things that's interesting is the original writer, he was quite embarrassed by it. He wrote it for his kids, and he didn't really think of anything of it until it became quite popular. And then
200 years later, man, it's all he's known for. That's
exactly, it. Exactly. So I hope that people will have a second listen to some of the poem, because we've like I said, we've sort of deconstructed it and put it into sort of different parts of the show, and I think in a fun way, and I hope that people will have a chance to sort of reread it and give it a second look.
In the earliest stages, has the poem always been a part of it, or when you guys were just sort of becoming familiar with the idea of the Cirque Christmas show, was it like different ideas that it could have been, or was it from day one, no, this poem is where we got to start? Like, how early on did you identify that was your jumping off point?
It was from day one. So yeah. Our chief creative officer, Diane Quinn, who's a good friend, she came to me with it and said, you know, I've got this idea for a Christmas show, and this, you know, I think that this poem is so well loved. Cirque has never done a Christmas show, and so I think that this combination could be really wonderful. And I read it through, and I said, you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot of fun, and some fun images as well that come from the poem as well.
How does, because a majority of the Cirque shows are really, it's not uncommon for an entire theater to be built around a show, or to be done sort of at an amphitheater or something like that. But these shows are unique in that they're really set up for a proper stage. You know, the way in which they're experienced is different than the standard Cirque show. How does that change the entire, you know, conceiving of the performances? And does it change the type of acrobatic acts you look for? You know, how does it influence the creative process?
I'll be honest, it was a big challenge. We're fortunate at Cirque that usually like as you said, the theaters are built specifically for the show, so we know we'll be able to have this kind of rigging or this kind of, you know, elevators that we'll use for different parts of the performance. Or we're in one of our big tops, which is very intimate. There's people sitting all the way around, almost 360, but probably 270 around the stage, and just that brings so much more, you know, interaction with the audience. So it was something that we took into consideration, because we knew that we'd be going into theaters, and two very different theaters. A theater in Chicago, which is more of a Broadway type house with 3 balconies, or 2 balconies, into the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden, which is a very different venue. It's you know, it's got one level. It's much more seating. So we definitely thought a lot about that sort of constraint, or that challenge. And I have to say, our set designer, Geneviève Lisette, is amazing. And she has this program that she can sit in any theater, any seat in the theater, and look and see what is their perspective. And she was very concerned. Like, she wanted to make sure that everybody got the same experience. And so because of that, she's created this stage, which is sort of has a bit of a focus that comes right sort of to the center and up, specifically so that everyone can see what's going on. Yeah.
I love that idea of just being able to virtually sit in any theater around the world.
I'd never seen anything like it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'd never seen anything like it.
It makes perfect sense. It feels like something that would exist nowadays.
Yeah.
And you guys, what stage is everybody at right now? I know we're opening in 2 days. What's going on at the theater right now? Are people loading in? Or is everything loaded in already? Or are they doing rehearsals?
So they're just loading in today. Today is going to be a really busy day over there. And tomorrow is the day that is really important. And so different from probably just a theatrical show is that every single artist needs time on stage with lights, with their rigging, with their apparatus, and so everyone will get a certain amount of time tomorrow in those show condition situations, so that they can really make sure that everything is as they expect and nothing is going to change. I mean, I sort of think doing a theatrical show, you can have the lighting designer be making changes as the play is going on, and they're in the rehearsal, and he's sort of making adjustments. But in this, you really can't. You have to sort of stop everything and say, we're going to add a light here. Is it in your eyes? No. Okay, can you do your trick? Great. So it's a whole different ball game.
When did you find out, James, that you were good at sort of wrangling these massive productions? Prior to this, you did a huge production for Marvel. You did their stadium shows and stuff. You've done a bunch of stuff with Cirque, and but you were a dancer, right? Is how it all kind of began? Was that
It began actually here in New York.
In New York,
yeah,
you were a dancer on Broadway.
One sort of funny, I guess, full circle is that I did a Christmas show at Madison Square Garden. Yes,
oh, man,
20 years ago. 20 years ago. Yeah, it was a Christmas Carol with Susan Stroman as the director choreographer, and that was that. Yeah. So it's
at
good to
what
be back.
point in your career did you realize, like, I'm comfortable sort of handling these massive endeavors? It's a big leap.
I don't know if I am ever comfortable. Yeah.
You still haven't figured that out
No,
yet.
no.
But you're doing it.
I'm doing it. Yeah.
You're doing a damn good job at it, man. I'm super excited. We're going to get some questions from the audience. Before we turn it over real quick, just a reminder to everyone, in 2 days, December 12th, at the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden, Twas the night before. It's an experience, man, and it's super, super amazing show. You got to check it out. You can head to cirquedusoleil.com, or you go to Ticketmaster to get your tickets. All the places you find tickets, you're going to find tickets there. So go get some tickets. Go see it. Is it already? It's not already sold out. Is it sold out already in New York?
No, I think I know they've got some sold out performances.
Yeah,
but
I saw there were a couple sold out already, but
yeah.
I think there's still time.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you haven't missed it yet. Go ahead, get your tickets, go see the show. My friend Kate here is telling me I got at least 2 questions, so let's go ahead. Let's turn it over. You got a microphone. First one, do it up.
Hi. So given that Cirque has been running for so long, what do you do to keep it innovative?
Sorry, say that one more
What
time.
do you do to keep it innovative?
What do you do to keep it innovative? Since it's been around for over 30 years, give or take, how do you keep it fresh?
I would say probably one of the biggest things is our casting department. They are, they scour the globe. Now videos help make things a lot easier. They used to have to, go to all these different locations, but they're constantly bringing us, and it's amazing what people are doing. And some of these shows, like, America's Got Talent, those actually bring some new opportunities as well. So I think that's probably a big part of it, is the casting team that is always coming up with new ideas. And some of them are human performance, and some of them are something completely different, like a new type of music or a new dance or something like that. So there's a lot that goes into that side of it.
It's funny that you mentioned like the America's Got Talent. I feel like anytime one of those shows comes on, you constantly see somebody, you go, that person's perfect for like a Cirque show. Like, it's kind of weird, it's a little risky, but it's amazing. I have no idea how they're doing it.
Right.
So it's amazing that you guys are watching that too.
And often they are from a Cirque show, and sometimes they are, and exactly.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Great question. Okay, let's do one more. You got a microphone? Go for it.
Hi, thanks so much for coming to talk to us today. I wanted to ask you, the Cirque du Soleil shows that I've been lucky enough to see have been these amazing, wonderful, magical things that kind of stay with you. And I was wondering if there's any show in particular that you've gotten to see in your time or that you've been a part of that stayed with you for one reason or another.
I had the privilege of working on a lot of the shows in Las Vegas, and I have to say that the show like O is really spectacular. It's probably one that they call it the dream, because it really is, you come away and you just can't quite process what you've seen. You've got people diving from 20 meters up and then going into a pool, and then suddenly there's someone running across the water just a few minutes later. So it really was ahead of its time. It's already been there now for quite some time, but it's a show that probably still, some of those images still stay with me because they're so beautiful. Yeah.
Another great question. Thank you. All right, before we wrap it up, here's a fun one. We talked a little bit about how the poem was part of your tradition growing up. Do you have a Christmas special, a holiday special that if you don't see it, Christmas didn't happen? You've got to, every year, tradition, you got to watch it. Is there one that sticks out for you?
I'm a sucker for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
That's great. That's a great answer.
Great one.
It doesn't have to be
It
a
was
crazy
great.
obscure one.
Yes.
That's a
And
good
listen,
one.
as a Canadian, this was quite some time ago when we didn't have. It was something that you had to have CBS. I don't know. I think, and we didn't have that, and we didn't have cable, and so you had to. I had to drive to my aunt's house, who was across the border, and she had it, and so it was special because you only got to see it one night at the certain time. So all the way. Yes, so that was it. Yeah.
Exactly it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I
Great.
appreciate you sharing that. I always share mine as a weird one. When I was a kid, it was Muppet Family Christmas was a special
Also
where they all go to
beautiful.
Fozzie's grandma's house. And I have it
Classic.
on VHS, like with the commercials from 1985. It's crazy. Yeah, it's like a time capsule. We watch it every year. It's amazing. Anyway, thank you for that. Thank you for hanging out, James.
Thank you so
I
much.
know you've got a trillion things you got to go do, so I'm going to let you get out of here. But I'll remind the world once more. Head over, go to Ticketmaster.com, go to CirqueDuSoleil.com, get some tickets for this show before they sell out, because they are going to sell out. You do not want to miss it. Make it a part of your tradition. Twas the Night Before opens the 12th at the Hulu Theater in Madison Square Garden. Everybody make some noise. Thanks so much to James Hadley
you.
right here.
Thank you.